action as otherwise authorized by the Brown Act. Any member of the public wishing to directly address the board on any item listed on the agenda may do so when the item is being considered by the board. Speakers are requested to be brief in their remarks, and the chair may limit each speaker to a comment period of 5 minutes. Ms. Sevi, do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak?
In person, no.
Okay.
And I only see one person online, but they're here for community reports.
Okay. Let's move on to community reports then.
Okay, we have Armando Martinez with Senator Rosalici Ochoa Bogue's office.
Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to stand here by you. And I am in place of Victor Hernandez. He has moved on to the campaign side of Senator Ochoa Bogue, and I will be your contact. If there is anything, I will send on the chat my email if you have any questions. As of today, Senator has submitted 21 bills, and most of them have been referred to committees, and also 5 resolutions. There is not much to report other than after the spring break on April 1st, things will definitely get hoppy in the Senate, and we will have more to report.
Thank you very much for your report, and great to meet you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 3, which is consent items. Does anybody have any items they would like to pull? Is there a motion to move the consent?
I'll move the consent items.
I'll second the motion. Director Phillips?
Aye.
Director Roberts?
Aye.
Director Snyder?
Aye.
Director Kuyava?
Aye.
Director Hayes? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Mr. Bartz, were there any matters removed from the consent calendar?
No items.
No, I'm sorry. No presentations and appointments. Move on to new agenda items. So item A, Mr. Bartz.
Thank you, Mr. President. The nomination period for the position of regular special districts member for LAFCO is now open. The current position is held by Kimberly Cox from Mojave Water Agency in Hellendale, CSD. And she's indicated that she would like support in continuing her position on there. And the staff's recommendation is for the board to nominate an elected member of the special district board for the position as regular special district member of LAFCO Local Agency Formation Commission, should the board desire to do so. And staff would recommend Kimberly Cox.
Okay. So, motion to...
I know Kimberly. I'm sure she's doing a good job. Is it just a consent?
It should vote, yes.
It would be a motion. I would move that the board nominate Kimberly Cox for the position, for the LAFCO position.
I'll second that.
Okay, with a motion and a second, we will take a vote. Director Phillips?
Aye.
Director Roberts?
Aye.
Director Snyder?
Aye.
Director Kuyava?
Aye.
Director Hayes? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Move on to item B, discussion and possible adoption of resolution number 2024-06, establishing policies for board conduct amongst directors and with staff. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you, Mr. President. The district's policy regarding board conduct amongst directors and with staff was established to ensure the board's deliberations are conducted honorably and that the board activities are performed in a manner that reflects dedication to the highest standards of integrity in order to earn the trust and confidence of the public served by the district. The policy establishes the duties of directors and methods by which the board governs the district. Pursuant to Section 3 of the policy, an annual review is to be conducted to determine if any changes are necessary. Last year, the policy amendments included updating the format changes to the date of the election of officers and updated references to the district's sunshine ordinance. And staff's recommendation is that the board adopt Resolution 2024-06, establishing policies for board conduct amongst directors and with staff.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bartz?
Mr. President, if I may,
Yes.
with respect to recitals C and D, those provisions cite to your sunshine ordinance that was adopted last year. It was amended in January of this year. So I would just change those citations from ordinance number 2023-03 that was adopted on March 8th, 2023 to ordinance number 2024-01 that was adopted on January 24th, 2024.
Okay,
I don't have any other recommended changes.
thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or changes? No. Do we have a motion to move the item?
I'll move the item with the recommendations that the committee recommended. I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Director Phillips,
Aye.
Director Roberts,
Aye.
Director Snyder,
Aye.
Director Kuyava,
Aye.
Director Hayes, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. And item C, discussion and possible approval of the updates to the district strategic plan. Mr. Bartz.
Ms. Sevi is going to take this item.
Thank you.
Okay, so in the packet, we have the revised strategic plan. This plan was originally adopted in March of 2022, and we review it periodically, typically around budget time, just to make sure that we're on track with our goals and that our budget reflects these goals. We did introduce some suggested changes a few meetings back, and we have included those in here. That includes updating the board of directors listed, updated section 1.5 to reflect the completion of the meter replacement program, and updated the goal for staff and customers to utilize the meter portal. We also added section 1.8 regarding exploring annexation options for El Mirage. We removed several sections pertaining to SB 1383, which led to some renumbering. And we updated the vision to action table accordingly. And as always, there's always minor formatting and graphics changes. So if anybody has any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Sevi?
Just a comment that it looks really good.
That would be Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
I just want to say I was happy seeing some things get checked off and taken out of there, and that a lot of progress has been made on the items that are in here, and I want to thank staff for that. Any other questions or comments? No?
Nope.
Do we have a motion to move the item?
I'll move the item.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay. Director Phillips, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Roberts?
Aye.
Director Snyder?
Aye.
Director Kuyava?
Aye.
Director Hayes, aye. Motion passes 5-0. Move on to item D, which is update on the proposed Civic Center and Phelan Park expansion projects. Mr. Bartz or Mr. Cardenas?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Is this mic on? It's on.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. Just a short update. You know, the FEMA meetings that were being held, I think started a couple months ago, will reconvene in the next week or so. Those meetings kind of stalled because we discovered that the FEMA requirement elevated the building an additional 2 feet. Tomorrow, we do have a meeting with the architect and the engineers to see what that's going to take as far as modifications to the civil plans, the building plans, and as well as the WQMP. We'll then determine what that time frame looks like. I think this is something we're going to communicate to FEMA in the next week or so on what that's going to look like. So we're kind of moving forward. We initially were worried that the redesign was really going to impact the aesthetics or how that building would sit on the property. After speaking with the civil engineer, it's not going to be too bad, considering that the site kind of sits lower than the street. So aesthetically, it's not too bad, especially when we go on the north side. It's going to remain the same as far as what it goes down to that entrance. So we'll have a better idea what that's going to look like in time frame and cost probably after next week or so. So at the next update, I'll probably have a better idea what that is. If there are any questions with that, I can move on to the park, which
Any
there isn't much to update on the park. We're status quo. We're moving forward with, the preliminary design. There is some massaging of the grading for the Civic Center that affects the park site. Dirt is the question, is where are we going to bring in 8,000 cubic yards of dirt to mitigate that 2-foot elevation, pad elevation. Speaking with the engineer, if we drop the field a couple of inches, we can capture that 8,000 cubic yards of dirt. So that's not going to really impact on import. It's just adjusting the grading plan for the park as well as the take on the civil plans.
Are we doing a cost analysis too, to see what the federal money's actually going to cost us by the time we get through with everything?
Yeah, so, we did go through the cost estimate for the project. We will be revisiting that before we get to a point where, we bring it to the board. We'll also get a cost of what it's going to take to bring these plants to FEMA compliance. So we'll also have a good idea of what that's going to look like. I don't know if General Don Bartz has anything to add to this, but.
Yeah, we definitely will have a cost comparison for the board, so we can just compare, by raising the pad up 2 feet. It's, we have $2 million in a grant, and it's going to cost us $700,000 to do the improvements. And the board can look at that and also the timeframes. You're also looking at architectural, grading, and all of the trades that would be involved with that, because it would be, I think, a substantial amount of work. But we will bring it back to where we can kind of compare what the costs would be compared to the $2 million.
Perfect. Any other questions for Mr. Cardenas? Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Move on to item 7, which is committee reports and comments, and engineering committee.
Engineering committee met, went over system repairs and maintenance, and the completion and successful, now online, the new well 15, went over those details, and then also spent quite a bit of time on reviewing several several sources to and ideas to add to the resource, add additional resources, and made some decisions on that, which will be brought back to the board in the future. Anything else?
No, that was perfect.
And then finance committee.
Finance meets March 19th, 14th, next week.
And then legislative committee.
Yeah, the legislative committee, we met yesterday. We had lack of participation on our local officials. We only had one come in, or one sign on. So the meeting was relatively quick, and I have nothing more to report out on that.
Thank you. Parks, recreation, and street lighting.
Nothing new. We haven't met since the last time we met.
Waste and recycling committee.
We meet next week.
Sounds like fun. With that, we'll move on to item H, which is staff and general managers report. Mr. Bartz.
Yes, I'll just have a short report on the Water Master meeting that was held today. They had individual sub-area committee meetings, and so we attended the Oeste sub-area committee. The Alto were such a small part of it, it really doesn't make any difference to us on that one. But they did confirm that they are going to submit to the court a recommendation to hold the ramp down at 50%. And it looks like it will be for a few years, I would hope. It looks like they would need some more time to evaluate the levels. They reviewed what they found with the model compared to what they actually see with the water levels. They say it still shows, per the model, that there's a deficit of about 14 or 1,500 acre feet a year difference between the inflow and the outflow of the basin. But based on the stability of the record or of the water levels, they're recommending to the court that they hold it at 50% for right now. I did talk briefly to our attorney this afternoon, and he's going to draft a support letter supporting Watermaster's position. And I was telling President Hayes, this is probably the first time in 25 or 30 years where I could support anything that they would have done in this area. So that is definitely a step in the right direction. And as soon as that letter is drafted, we have plenty of time. The court date is until June, but we'll bring it back to the board and talk about the recommendations of the Water Master and how that affects us. We'll probably give a short presentation on that because it does extend out through, I believe, 2034 or 2035, the need to lease replacement water. And we had built that into our rate structure as a pass-through, but good news for our customers and for the district as a whole. It looks like that could be avoided, that we won't have any additional cost for at least 10 years.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bartz? I just want to say great job working with Watermaster and getting them to agree to that. I'm happy that it's usually it's a battle with Watermaster every time.
It is a battle, and Mark's been involved with this battle since the very beginning.
Yes.
And the Watermaster engineer today said, when this started out, you kept asking to look at the water levels, that you're actually in a pretty decent position. He goes, we didn't think you knew what you were talking about, but after further review, it looks like there may be some merit to it, and they agree with what we presented.
Sort of haw on him about, like he was passing a stone to
Yeah.
admit that.
It's about the closest thing to an apology we will ever get from Watermaster.
Great job, Director Roberts, also for all
Yes.
your hard work on that.
Yeah, we couldn't have done it without Mark.
All right. Let's see, director's reports. Director Phillips.
I attended the World of Water presentation they did at Mojave Water Agency last week. They went over water saving and gardening. And I learned that our soil here is really, really good. And we don't really need to use potting soil. And the best numbers to use when it comes to fertilizers is all equal numbers, so 10, 10, 10, or 20, 20, 20. And it's best to put the fertilizers on top and not under when you plant. So I learned quite a bit.
Director Roberts.
I as General Manager Bart said, I attended the Oeste, what was it, seminar, I guess?
Sub-area meeting, yeah.
Sub-area, what is it? Workshop. It was a workshop. And had some pretty good discussions with Bob Wagner's the consultant to Watermaster, who makes the recommendations to Watermaster, who then makes the recommendations to the judge. And hopefully the judge will listen to them. That's about as far as we can get. So we'll put that support letter in to try to help with that. That's it.
Director Schneider.
I have nothing to report.
Director Kuyava.
Yes, Monday night I attended the Association of San Bernardino County Special Districts Board meeting, and unfortunately, I was unanimously voted in vice president this year. So add another hat on there.
You just keep moving up in that
Just
organization.
keep doing things. And to jump ahead a little bit into the correspondence, the C-Click Fix app, I downloaded that today. I would recommend highly that everyone download it.
That is
And
good.
I have already gone on there and filed the pothole information for Phelan Road and saw that other people have done it as well. So this isn't excellent, excellent addition for our community to use. So,
I would agree with that. That is a good app to use, yes. I have nothing to report, so we'll move on to item 10, correspondence and information. Ms. Sebi, is there any correspondence?
Just the items in the packet. Spring is upon us, so there's some swamp cooler maintenance information in there. Our kids' spring baking class is in April. The flyer about C-Click Fix is in correspondence. Information about our smart meter and then our billing insert for solid waste. This is going to go out to CRNR customers and our customers about separate collection. And then just a reminder that April 4th is our well dedication ceremony. So I'll make sure that is in the next packet.
Any questions for Mrs. Sebi? No? So we'll move on to review of action items. Were there any prior meeting action items?
There were none?
Are there any current meeting action items?
There are none.
And then, any members of the board have any items you'd like to add to the agenda for next month? So we will recess to closed session at 5:28.